we're looking at the Xbox 360 store. Obviously, they've announced that it is closing in, I believe, is it July? Is it July 29th? I believe. So I thought we could have a glance at the store. There's a few games. Excuse me. I am looking at obviously the 360 store. I mean, it's still running and stuff, but in terms of like it's proper slow. Like it's like incredibly slow. So have a look at the new releases. Obviously the store was it 2000? I don't remember the day. Was it 2006? When something like that, I believe, when the store was running. I can't remember the exact date because I didn't actually get one until 2007, I believe it was, and I got the. Excuse me, what was it? I'm trying to remember what it was called now. It was the Pro model, which I think was it a 60 gig one? There was a certain code name for it. Obviously, we had the Red Rings of Death issue, which caused a lot of problems. So I thought we'd go through a few of them. And the weird thing is, unless you purchase these, like I've got a couple of these running already, and I have Alien Isolation running, the background for it. Like it says play on Xbox One, but when I look on my Series X, it doesn't show up. So I assume I'd have to purchase these games in order to play them on Series X. There's a few on here. I was also told there was a sale on as well, but I'm not seeing a sale. That's from what I've seen so far. So as you can see, let's have a glance through. Monopoly Plus, which I think I've got on PlayStation. But I've looked these up on Series X, and unless you purchase them, the trials don't show up. So you have to purchase the games. You can't just download a trial of these games. Not that I mean the most are about £10. I remember playing Valiant Hearts, I think on Xbox One. I'm surprised that isn't backwards compatible, actually. Although it's already on the other platforms anyway, so it wouldn't make any difference one way or the other. But it's £3, not even £3. It's quite sad to see this though, because obviously PS3 is the same. That is, they announced that was closing a couple of years back, and then they didn't close it down because of the backlash they got from people. But the same thing is going to happen with that sooner or later. And for some reason, there's weird discrepancies between regions around the world. So, as an example, I wanted a copy of Dino Crisis. I had to buy it. In the end, I bought a full disc version of it, the original PS1 copy. And the UK, European, well, UK, I'm not sure about European, but I imagine it'd be the same. Dino Crisis is available on the US PSN store, but it is not available on the UK one, which is odd. I hate region restrictions on anything and everything. It's crap and pointless and irritating, honestly. But there's a few interesting games. There's one on here called Guardian Heroes that looks kind of interesting, which I'm kind of curious about. It is a online. This bloody controller's just gone dead on me. It is an online or online. Sorry, it's a beat 'em up. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up game. It looks quite good. And for some reason, my batteries on my 360 controller have decided to die on me. So bear with me 2 seconds while I attempt to correct this. I had another 360 pad, but I don't know where it's gone. And unfortunately, the Xbox One pads are not compatible without an adapter to the 360. So I'm not really sure. Well, I know why that is, but it's just annoying to say the least. The other thing with this 360 store is the amount of time it takes to load anything and everything. It takes forever. And the controller continues to keep dying on me for some goddamn reason. Let me just try and sync this up a minute. Okay. There's the sync button. There we go, we're synced up now, so hopefully it won't keep bleeding disconnecting. That is annoying. But yeah, the store on this is so slow. Like it just takes forever. I'm assuming that this runs on a don't know if it's the same thing as the other Xbox, the more modern Xbox store as such, or if it just runs in the background. I don't know the technicalities of it all. I don't even understand it honestly. But there's a few games on here that look kind of interesting. Obviously Castlevania, but I believe you can play that. I think that's on modern platforms as far as I'm aware. Pac-Man, Flashback, original Mega Drive, and I think Super Nintendo game, and I believe it was on Amiga as well. Not a game I liked at the time, but looking back now, I think it's absolutely fantastic for what it was when it came out. It was a really revolutionarily different type of game. It's very, very hard from memory serves. It's kind of in that vein of like those weird type of genre games like Echo the Dolphin, where it's just extremely hard but extremely rewarding. But I've never played the remake. That is one I'm probably going to pick up. In fact, I'm tempted by that. But is that on modern platforms? Dungeons and Dragons Chronicles. It's a beat 'em up game. It looks quite interesting. I would say Wolfenstein 3D, but you can play that particular original version is actually in the 2001 game, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, not the more modern iterations of it, not the delisted 2009 one either, but the other ones look fantastic. Darkstalkers Resurrection. That's a shame that's not backwards compat. Obviously, these will all be backwards compat with Xbox One, so I am making the assumption that they would probably be backwards compatible with Series X as well. But you would have to do a little bit of research on that yourself to find out. Renegade Ops. I thought it'd be cool if I could download the free trials of these and then play them on Series X, but for some reason they don't show up in the library unless you obviously buy the games, which is fair enough, but it's kind of annoying. It's got a very sort of Desert Strike vibe to me, that has. Looks kind of interesting. But it's games like this I'm kind of interested in, like Guardian Heroes. I've been looking at this and and ahhing about it. Like it's like 3-4 quid. And I believe it's a Sega Saturn. And I imagine the physical version of this on Sega Saturn is going to be a lot of money, probably. As you can see, the time it takes to load anything on 360 is painfully bad. And as I said in one of the videos, I have got Castlevania, the one that didn't review very well, which I've actually found it quite good. Unfortunately, there's no way of playing it on modern platforms. So it's been delisted, as I said in another video, so you can't actually play it unless you pick up a 360 PS3, and I don't think it's not available on Steam or even Game Pass. I think there's some legality issues between id and Activision. But in saying that though, the fact that Microsoft now own both Bethesda and Activision, surely you'd think it would come to the platform. I mean, it hasn't got good reviews, but I've been playing it and I've played a little bit of it so far, and it isn't a bad game. It's locked to 30 frames a second as far as I can tell, which isn't always the best thing. It does feel very the frame rate just feel very stuttery at times. But I don't quite. Jesus, this store is so slow. So I think that's one I'm definitely going to pick up. See, it plays on Xbox One. So that is pretty much, I think is that most of our... It can't be all the games, there must be more than that. Castle Crashers, but this store is pretty slow and rough at this point in terms of free trial, which I've got Castle Crashers, I believe, on Steam. It's a very underrated game, in fact, and it's a hell of a lot of fun with in couch co-op or even online co-op. I sort of miss these days. These were the early days of the online stores. They're very, very sort of very different to today's stuff in terms of on demand. And these are the systems that you want to be collecting for now. 360, PS3, because the prices are going to go up. Certain games are already starting to rise in price. I mean, Command and Conquer, Kane's Wrath. I mean, obviously, I would recommend playing that on PC because it's just going to be a much better control system. And I don't, as far as I'm aware, I don't think 360 supports a mouse and keyboard, but I could be wrong on that. But generally, there's just so much cool stuff. Dead Space 3, mixed bag, I must say. I had it on EA Origin, but I believe EA Origin is gone now, so I'm making the assumption that I've technically lost that game. I'm not 100% sure about that. But they've just done the remake, which I've installed on Series X, but I haven't got around to playing it as of yet. Black Ops 3, which I believe on 360 was just the multiplayer. Or is it that did it include the campaign as well? Because I've never actually played that particular one. Resident Evil 0, got that on PS4 and PS5. Skylanders, I had a copy of one of them in that auction bundle I had. Phantom Pain, and that's not backwards compatible. Though it's available on every platform anyway, I believe. 16 quid. I put about 200 hours into that game, and it's such a good game in terms of how you can approach missions and stuff. But the problem is the game's unfinished. Konami and Kojima, obviously they're big falling out. They never finished the game. So there's when you finish the game, there's loads of content. Like it shows you what the next part of the story would be. But obviously they've never gone back and finished it, and don't imagine that will ever happen now, sadly. But it is nice to see Konami starting to wake up a little bit now and starting to release stuff again. There must be a reason why they've done that. Escape Dead Island, never heard of it. Another Assassin's Creed. I've been told the new one is quite interesting. It's like a ninja type game based in Japan. There's been some controversy apparently over having a black ninja. I mean, from what I understand, the time it's set, I don't imagine it's realistic. But at the same time, who cares? It's a game. Just you need to get politics out of gaming completely, unless it's a game that's based in politics. Keep all these political views out of everything, because political just corrupts and it just wrecks everything. So just keep it out and just enjoy what you enjoy. Resident Evil, 17 million Just Dance games. That is available on Game Pass. Game Pass or PSN Plus, because I've got it installed on one of them. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. I've got Diablo 3, the standard game. It came in one of those auction bundle lots. And I've got it on PC anyway. Sacred, Risen 3. Never played either of those games. I've heard of them. It's got to the point now with gaming where there's just too much to actually play. There just isn't enough time or money for that game. And given the fact that They're talking about things going up in price again. The UK is a hellhole in the moment for in terms of the current government absolutely taxing the living crap out of everyone to the point where people can't even afford to live. Um, so yeah, so that'll be my little political rant, and I'll keep it at that. Interesting. It's nothing I haven't seen before. But yeah, and also the cost of things is going up. Gaming in particular, they're talking about Game Pass going up in price when they bring in Call of Duty, which they said they're still going to do. Everyone at the moment is saying, "Oh, this is going to bring in, this is going to, they're going to be doing very, very well once Call of Duty goes in." I'm not so convinced. I think that Microsoft are in a really not bad situation, but they're in a situation that is precarious because, according to the numbers, in terms of their growth, Game Pass this year only grew 1%. So, as I said in another video, about the studio closures, I think they've got some very, how can I put it? They've got some interesting. They're in an interesting and precarious situation because if Game Pass doesn't get the growth they want, I think they'll go third party. I think you will not see another Xbox. I think, what's the point if they're going to go third party, which I think is both good. It'll be good for them in some regards, but in other regards, it's going to be bad because Sony's going to rule the roost. You do not want one company controlling gaming, and obviously you got Nintendo, but Nintendo they do their own stuff. They're a very different company to Sony and Microsoft in terms of where they're going, what they're trying to achieve, and they are both good and bad because obviously they're a little bit on the back. They're a little bit backwards in some regards to online in particular. But they've all got their own. They're all very, very different. But I just we don't want to see, and I don't think that happened because Sony in some regards are in a similar situation, but they're following the traditional console model, which means they're gonna come across different problems themselves, which has already been reported apparently. So it is very, very sort of. I just don't know where this is going to go. I've been all about digital on PC for must be 10 years now at least. But console, I was, but as I said, like I've been going back to collecting physical stuff because I just think it's, I prefer it honestly. And and Sony recently took a load of TV content away from people that paid for it. And that's it, you've lost it. I was like, I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. If you're going to do that, need a refund. They then brought the content back, so I'm hesitant in some regards to buy some stuff digitally, but that is the way things are going, and there's not going to be a great deal you can do about it in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, retro stuff is going sky high in terms of the pricing, and obviously I've mentioned my experiences with CEX have been, to say mixed would be an understatement. Pretty bad. My local store, as I said before, has been pretty good in refunding the games and stuff because they didn't work, or it wasn't the correct game, or God knows what else. But it's funny actually because they sent me an email the other day saying we want your experiences of how you got on. So I sent them my experiences, and then they sent me another email the other day saying we're glad to hear you had a great great experience. I was like, but I didn't. I didn't have a good I didn't have a good experience at all. But I also stated in the review that the staff were decent. They had no issues. Now, I don't know whether they send this stuff out from their local area or if it comes from a certain like a certain fulfillment, like you have the big warehouse where it comes to that. I don't know where it's shipped from, but the stuff they were shipping was just outright crap. A lot of it, as I said, like I had Stadium 2 didn't work, Gears of War Ultimate Edition, the remaster of Gears 1 that didn't work, Turok 1 that didn't work, Cowabunga Collection I took back because it was the wrong disc, and ironically that was more expensive second hand. I got it on Amazon last week for 15 quid. That's hard as well. Some of the tournament fighter games well, I'm not very good at them, but they're a bit naff, honestly. The other stuff though is pretty good. There's so much on here. Duke Nukem, a game that took nearly 20 years to come out and was complete crap. Gearbox have been putting out a few stinkers over the last couple of years. I played Borderlands 3, and the gameplay is good, but I don't know what it is. But the story and the characters are just shite. They've got to be some of the least funny characters ever. They're not funny in the slightest. They're so irritating. They're just you just want to shoot them. Ironically, they're just so irritating, and they're not funny in the slightest. I don't know what happened because I always thought Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 were just really good games, and 3 is a good game in terms of the gunplay and everything, but the characters are just just irritating to the point of just yeah. But and obviously the Gearbox also put out Colonial Marines, so they've put out a few stinkers, and the Borderlands trailer it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look good. It just looks like generic Hollywood shite, basically, and that does seem to be the way of Hollywood these days. They don't seem to be putting out any particularly good content, or not a great deal of good content. I think there's about 2 decent movies that came out this year, maybe 3. So, but again, that's getting a remake. Well, the first Epic Mickey game I think is getting a remake on. Is it Switch? I'm not 100% sure because I think it originally was on Wii. Max Payne 1 and 2 are getting remakes, I believe, as well. This is a game I never got on with. I had it on PS3. I downloaded it when it was on PSN Plus, and it's a really interesting game. It's an interesting take on Metal Gear Solid, but it's also I found it incredibly difficult. I got my ass kicked on it. I could never. There was a certain boss I could just never beat him, no matter how hard I tried. But it's an interesting game. Revelations. I bought that was a 3DS game, I believe. That they released about 10 years ago, and they ported it to Steam, and I played through it once or twice, I think, and that was really good. That was it had elements of the original Resident Evil in it, but obviously from like a third over the shoulder sort of perspective. So like the remakes, which were particularly 2 tremendous. Rocksteady Arkham Asylum, the newest game from Rocksteady. Although I don't believe a lot of the founders of Rocksteady are even there anymore. Suicide Squad, which looked like that really shite Avengers game that come out. Well, I thought it was shite anyway. I played the beta for it, and to say naff would be an understatement. It was boring as hell. But it's just not my genre game, so each to his own, I suppose. Resident Evil 5, like that game. Yeah, I've got it on the PS3 collection. Ninja Gaiden. Sonic Generations. I'm more of a 2D Sonic guy. I don't particularly like the 3D games, although Generations isn't a bad game. And but the newest one, Frontiers, I played the demo for. I didn't think that much to it. It's a shame because I was a big Sega. I was a Sega kid for decades. Obviously, when I kind of forgot about Sega Saturn when PS1 came out, for some reason I just forgot Sega existed. I don't know why that was. Maybe it's just my friends are all into PlayStations, and then obviously with the Dreamcast, I didn't really never had one. And Sonic Adventure is one of those games that people say that's amazing, but I was like, it's stylish, it's cool music. But I never found the gameplay to be particularly that compelling. But it's a shame. It's a shame. Sonic Mania though was awesome, absolutely awesome. It's just a shame there wasn't more original levels to that particular game. Dead Rising. I think I played the demo of one of them once. Wasn't really my cup of tea. The newer Castlevania games, I have played one of them, I believe, but I prefer the 2D originals as much as they want me to put my head through a wall. Particularly Castlevania, is it 2, Simon? No, Castlevania 3, I think, was the first one in the timeline, if I'm understanding correctly. I've got a copy of Bioshock 2. I got for free. No, PS3 with that auction lot. Final Fantasy. I think I've got a copy of Final Fantasy. Well, I can't remember which one it is now. Yeah. Tekken Tag Tournament. Pirates of the Caribbean. Far Cry 3 was good, so was Borderlands, that was a stellar game. Painkiller, I think, did that come out on disc? I can't remember now. Connectimals. Saints Row, I think I played Saints Row 3. And the newest one apparently was absolute trash, although I haven't played it, so I probably can't say for certain. Crackdown, I never understood what people found good about Crackdown. I played one of them, and it was just some armoured twonk collecting orbs and shooting NPCs, and it felt like one of the most primitive games I've ever played. There was nothing really to it other than just collecting orbs. I mean, I guess it could be fun with maybe a few friends and stuff, but it was just, I don't know, it's just, it's a certain experience I just can't describe. But again, that's the great thing about gaming. There's something there for everybody. So if you don't like something, you can play something else. Fight Night Champion. I know EA. I particularly don't like EA, but that's a stellar game. Absolutely, I've played hundreds of hours of just going through the climbing the ranks to win the different championships and stuff. SSX. That's a good game. I think I've got it on PS3. Got to a certain boss and never got any further with it. There's just too many games now. Supreme Commander, those are really, really good, particularly on PC. Definitely something I'd recommend. Bulletstorm, I remember playing that. It's very, very stylish and artsy. Come on, Command and Conquer. That's Tiberian. Although I like Tiberian Sun. It's probably my favourite Command and Conquer game, and the music is absolutely stellar. Conviction I've got, I believe, on 360. The one I haven't played is it the 13 game Blacklist? Homefront, I've got a copy of that on PS3. Never played it though. I might play it one day, but right now I'm in the middle of Pearl on DS. I'm trying to get back into Diablo 4. There's a new season that's just dropped, but it's just having the time to actually do it. It's going between PC and Series X. King of Fighters, 20 quid. I think that's not a bad price. Darkness, I played one of them once. Very stylish game. Oh Jesus, Fable the Journey. Isn't that the one where you have to like you're like on horse and cart or something? I remember that when they were pushing Kinect for 360. Obviously, both PlayStation and Xbox were looking at the success the Wii was having with all its motion control stuff, and they were pushing that. The last couple of years of both their console sort of life cycle, they were pushing that massively. Cameo, I think that might be. I think that's on that Rare collection. Ratatouille, seen the film, never played the game. Sonic Riders, atrociously bad from what I remember. There's a couple of these like Split Second, and there was another one called Blur racing games that are actually really, really good. Super Street Fighter, excellent. And I've got a disc copy of that now, Space Marine, and it's awesome. I'm just waiting for the second game to come out, so hopefully, because as I said before in another video, the PS3 is an absolute pain in the ass to record from. It causes nothing but problems. I've tried it with splitters, and the results are always hit and miss a lot of the time. But that's one I would definitely recommend. Just can't wait for the second game, and luckily they managed to get out from the I believe the arms of the Embracer Group, which is a massive big corporation with silly money, and they have no clue how to spend it in terms of developing video games. They're the same company that developed Gollum, which is absolutely atrocious, and when you just look at it, like it's just a game that you can tell is going to be crap before you even played it. But well, in my personal opinion, Burnout Revenge. I haven't played that. I've played 1, 2, and 3. 2's my favourite personally, just because it's the perfect balance of speed and sort of destruction. Again, Red Alert, really, really good game. Never played the Condemned games, but I've heard quite positive things. Destroy All Humans, I believe that was one of them was remastered. Fear 2, I've only ever played Fear 1 and I've played a little bit of Fear 2, but the first Fear I played on PC, and at the time it was one of those games that really pushed what you could do on a PC. Operation Raccoon City, I hate that game. In terms of the game, the gameplay is just I find it so boring. It's not fun in the slightest. What's ironic is the actual story is actually really interesting. The different takes they have on like the different Leon, Claire, Jill, and the other characters, how they survived Raccoon City. It's a fantastic concept, executed really, really poorly, because I got to the point where you go into like a city hall and there's about 6 million lickers and all you do is shoot them, and the AI is awful. Graphically it's pretty good, but it's just boring, so boring. So if it's a game you're interested, then go and have a look at it. But I would recommend just watching the cutscenes on YouTube, because you can see different what if scenarios, and that is quite interesting. With Resident Evil, it's always good. But the game itself, I just thought it was shite. But again, personal opinion. If you're interested, go and check it out, because it's well worth a punt. Sonic Star, Sega Star Racing. I think I've got the Transformed. I think this is the second game, and there's a third or fourth game since then. Thief, that was supposed to be really, really big, and from my understanding, it didn't do that well. Dante's Inferno was like a weird EA sort of. It was a weird EA game, in the vein of like Devil May Cry. Apparently, it's quite good, but I haven't played it. Everybody loves Destiny. I've haven't even played it in single player, which defeats the object of it really. It's a very sort of co-op team-based type game. Resident Evil 4, I've got that on PS3, GameCube. I've also got it on Series X as well, and also I've got the remake on Steam. So I've more than double dipped when it comes to Resident Evil 4. Chronicles of Riddick, I've got a disc-based copy of the original. Is it the original Xbox game of that? I believe it's in one of my other videos. I'm pretty sure of that. Enslaved is actually a very good game that didn't sell very well. It's definitely one I'd recommend from everything I've read about it. There's a couple of those types of games, like some of the JRPGs on 360 are getting up there in price now. One I was looking at was Blue Dragon. So I would definitely recommend that one. And there's another one called Lost Odyssey. These are games I think they're going to go up in price, because I don't think there was a great deal of JRPGs available on Xbox 360, and it didn't do very well in Japan from the information I read about the sales and stuff. So there's so much interesting stuff here. There really is. Bionic Commando. I mean, Capcom are having a stellar time in terms of their games at the moment. They really are having. I think they've increased the wages of the developers or something. So, Crash Mind Over Mutant. I've never heard of that before. Wow, that's certainly different. God, that's a weird model for Crash Bandicoot in particular. That's really weird. So these are the type of games that you are going to lose access to a lot of this stuff. Those kind of weird games. Crisis. not a particularly great game, PC pusher though when it came out. Ghostbusters, can certainly recommend that. I've got that on Steam. I think I played it on PS3 as well. AI is a bit naff at times, but it's practically a sequel to Ghostbusters 2. It follows on and it's got all the voice actors, which is awesome. Just Cause, that's really, really good. Ninja Gaiden. Some of them are getting expensive now as well, discs-based ones as well. That's an interesting one. I saw a copy of that in CX, Street Fighter X Tekken. I believe there was supposed to be a Tekken X Street Fighter at one point, but I'm under the impression it was cancelled. But that's a game I've never played. I've been quite curious to play it at some point. I've got a copy of that on an original Xbox. Unfortunately, the disc is scratched to hell, so I've got to get a new disc for it at some point. I'm not a big Tomb Raider fan, honestly. I played some of the newer games, and they're like Uncharted, but the protagonist, Lara's not a very interesting character. I don't tend to find she doesn't have a lot of wit, unlike the Uncharted games where, you know, there's set pieces and explosions, and the character's generally interesting to watch. But if anything, I probably prefer the original Tomb Raider games over the newer games. But that's only because I used to enjoy doing, like, jumping off the highest buildings and seeing what horrific ways you can die. But still, it's a good game nonetheless. Alien vs Predator, that's not a bad game actually. Much better than Colonial Marine, so I definitely recommend that. The campaigns are quite linear, but they are quite fun. Ah, there it is, Blue Dragon. Oh, and it's backwards compatible as well. Interesting. I've been itching to try a JRPG game, but I've never been able to get into them. I don't know what it is. I play things like Pokemon and stuff now and then, but for some reason I've just never been able to get into these like turn-based games. I don't know why it is either. And it's from Akira Toriyama. Obviously, he passed away recently, sadly. Obviously, the father of Dragon Ball. I adore Dragon Ball. There hasn't been that many games that has really interested me of late, though. I must say there was the one I want, which I can't get, is unless I get it emulated, is Boo's Fury, but it wasn't released in Europe and UK. It was only released in the US. So I don't know why, because anime was sort of it hit its real peak at that point, like the early 2000s. Dungeon Siege, I remember playing one of them. It wasn't a bad game. It was very, I think it was like Diablo, hack and slash if I remember correctly. Man, when this store shuts, they're gonna lose so much stuff unless you buy it all, I suppose. Which sadly I'm not in that point to afford that, unfortunately. But I know certain YouTubers such as Gerard the Completionist did all that and got quite a lot of praise for it. Sadly, since then, events have happened that have kind of tarnished his legacy. Yeah, it's Lost Odyssey. That was the other one. But I won't go into that. I'm sure you've heard more than enough on that particular tablet. 20 quid, not bad. I remember playing that on PS3, I think, Lost Planet 2. Not a bad little game. Very sort of Monster Hunter. Metal Gear Solid HD Peace Walker. I've got that on PlayStation 3, if I remember correctly. I got to a point where I finished the game, and there's a certain mission you have to do where you imprison somebody, and then the twat keeps escaping, and he escapes about 19 times. I must have captured him so many times, and then the next scene it would make you do the same mission. You got to capture him again, and the capturing was really easy, but you had to do it like 50 times. I was like, and I was like, at this point I'd cleared the main campaign, and I was like, I'm not doing this, it's boring me. So I just never went back to it. But yeah, bizarre, but a decent little game, especially since I played it on PS3 and not on PSP. So I definitely recommend that. Prey, that's the one of the companies that was sadly shut down recently. I think I played a demo of that as well. It was actually pretty good. I've just dropped my controller. Fantastic. Ah, Code Veronica. And she's like, I want a copy of that on GameCube or Dreamcast, but it's like 45 quid. And apparently there's a couple of different versions of that. Either there's a PS2, GameCube, and the PS3, and I think the PS4 versions. There's some differences, I think, in terms of the way it's been remastered or something, apparently. But I would recommend Code Veronica. It's the only Resident Evil game I've never cleared, because it gets quite difficult later on. I tend to find with the hunters and that. But sad about Silent Hill. That is a game that should be good, but they didn't remaster it very well apparently. So the second game is completely broken in terms of the fog, and that's not correctly rendered, from my understanding. There's some other issues as well. I have Silent Hill 3 on PS2 disc. I got it for about £36, I believe. So that was worth it, definitely. Whether I get around to playing it is another thing entirely. That's not bad for Blacklist, but I think you can get that cheaper. Tomb Raider Anniversary. Wow, man, there's going to be so many games disappear when this store closes. But there you have it. I hope I haven't droned on and bored you too much. Call of Duty, Halo Reach. There's some interesting stuff. What have I actually got in my games list? Let's have a look. Guardian Heroes. See, those are the two I'm looking at. I'm quite curious about. Perfect Dark, which is also on Series X. That is a game you can't get anymore. It's delisted. Afterburner Climax. It's a really, really fun game. It's a very short game, but it's a great deal of fun. And don't think you can get it anywhere now. I don't think it ever came. I don't know if it ever came out on physical disc either, as far as I'm aware. Did I buy Streets of Rage 2? Huh. And it's not backwards compatible. That's weird. That's really weird. But Doom is. I think it's a shame they don't bring Arcade back, because it's awesome. Arcade was really, really good. I've downloaded that on Series X. Hope you've enjoyed the little tour of the Microsoft Xbox 360 store. Predominantly games-based stuff. It's sad to see it go. But Jesus, Bing. Does anybody use Bing? I don't know anyone that uses Bing ever. But yeah, sad to see it disappear. But I suppose all good things come to an end at some point.